efficient way to stalk somebody nowadays, right? Okay, I said we had to talk about this for a minute, so we will. This one obviously is bad. On the surface, everyone in this room knows this is not a good thing, right? Again, I feel bad being the guy standing up here trying to convince you that everything's worse than you thought it was. But that's kind of the process I've gone through myself over these last couple of years. It's happening a lot, and it's a problem in the workplace for a lot of reasons. It's a problem in society for a lot of reasons. I told you, I think I said, over half, right? Did I say that? Over half of the bad shootings we see out there, public shootings, over half of them have this component. And a lot of times they happen at workplaces. And a lot of times, people who die had nothing to do with it. In fact, Mondo is going to tell you a story of an active shooter event that he personally responded to as a police officer that had this component. Because so many of them do. It's bad. It's a bad, bad situation. And here you go. I'm a man. I do not understand what it's like for a woman who's being abused and violence heaped upon her at home. I can't relate to that. There, it's out. But what I do know, having talked to many, many, many women who've gone through it over the last 5 years and researched this thing until my brain just wants to fall out, I know that it's bad. I just maybe personally can't. And I say a woman, okay, yes, quick disclaimer, women sometimes are the offenders. No doubt about it. In the Marine Corps, in a unit that I was in, a great big strong Marine used to come to work looking like he fell off his bike on the way to school. And it turned out that his 5-foot-tall wife, who weighed maybe 105 pounds in wet wool clothing, was beating the hell out of him. And he was a very stoic guy, and he would not hit her back. He would not even protect himself. He would just stand there and take it. So yeah, it happens, okay? But it's rare. It's rare. And we don't see cases in the news all the time where a woman snaps and goes and slaughters her children and kills her husband and goes to his workplace and kills his friends. We see the exact opposite, right? So anyway, this stuff's happening, and one of the reasons that I've figured out, it's not rocket science, one of the reasons it's so bad is because most of the time women wait too long to get help. Now, I'm not editorializing, because again, I don't know, their reasons are their own, and I'm not for 1 minute going to say that but the fact is that they wait too long. And that friction thing that I mentioned, these things usually start relatively small or innocently, and they continue to get worse. Because as this offender, every act that he perpetrates that no one stops gives him another go-ahead, right? Classical conditioning, V.F. Skinner and the rats, right? Teach the rats to press the red button and they get a little pellet of food. Behavior, reward. Behavior, reward. He does a control thing over her, she does nothing about it. Next time he does a worse one, and it builds and it gets worse. By the time she gets help and seeks help, he's already developed that behavior to such a degree that anyone interfering with it, it's a complete outrage to him. And he's in this state in his life now. If he's capable of hurting his own wife and maybe his kids, there's no telling what he's going to do. A tool that some women use and have to use is a legal tool, a restraining order, or an order of protection order, one of those type things, which sometimes can definitely help. But again, if they wait too long, it kind of goes like this. He's already outraged because she finally decided to move out. And maybe she's hiding from him and living with a friend, or maybe she's at the house and kicks him out, whatever. But she finally did it. And her friends are happy. They're glad she finally did it. He's outraged because of the control thing. He cannot believe she did this. And now some sheriff's deputy shows up at his house, gives him a piece of paper that says he can't go to his own house and see his own kids. It's outrageous, right? He's not going to take that. So a lot of times at that point they lash out. Doesn't always mean that it ends in murder. In fact, it usually doesn't. Usually they just get mad and go over there and maybe get arrested, and police have to talk to them. Maybe it looks like that. But it happens a lot. A lot. Let me tell you a quick case study, because I'm getting real good at telling you awful, ugly stories, so why not one more? Last July, you might even remember it. It was in Tennessee. Man, woman, 3 small kids, estranged because he had become abusive. And she got a restraining order because she was terrified and it was getting bad, right? So she gets a restraining order, and like happens fairly often when it's this bad, I don't mean every restraining order, I mean when it's this bad. He went straight over to the house to register his discontent with that action that he cannot believe she had the nerve to do. And so he's pounding on the door, and she called the police, and they got there quick. Good, thank God. And they arrested him, took him to jail, early evening, put him in jail, kept him overnight. In the morning, got him out of the cell, sat him down at the table with the restraining order, put it down on the table, and went down it line by line with him. Do you understand this now? You can't do that. You're not allowed to do. Do you understand? And he said, yes, I do. Now I understand, officer. Thank you. And he got up and left, and you know where he went, right? And they should have followed him. They should have known this. He went straight back to the house. Got to the door, pounded on the door, and told her, she yelled, I'm calling the police again. He said, the police helped me understand. I get it now. I understand. It's over. I get it. And since it's over, I have to kill the 3 kids and you and myself. Because we can't go on because it's over. And by the way, it plays out that way all too often. If you don't read the papers and don't know. Ask the guy in the mall in Omaha why they were pieces of blank. Ask this man, how are you going to kill your own children? I don't know, but he's gonna. So he kicks down the door, and she shoots him dead in the threshold. And so you're doing what I did, probably, a sigh of relief, right? Thank God, what it could have been, right? But it's not a happy ending. It's maybe happier. How happy is it, that a woman had to shoot her husband dead in the threshold of their house in front of their 3 small children? And if that doesn't frame this problem, I don't know what could better frame it. Now, at work, a lot of these things happen, right? And the woman's friends see these things. And a lot of times her friends know why these things are happening. Supervisors and managers see these things. A lot of times they don't dig deep to see why. They just know that she's violating certain policies. And a lot of times women wind up getting punished at work before the organization even knows that she's a victim. So it's there's just nothing good about it. And it is a definite workplace issue. And the reason that we have to talk about it at all is because just like any of the other behaviors, it doesn't have to go on the way it's going on now. I said it earlier, for every one of these, there's people right now that will help. If you know somebody having this problem in their life, there are people here now that can help them, point them in right directions, help them with some resources. Am I saying, is this guy, this crazy person telling me that there's someone in this building that's going to fix domestic violence? No. No, it's ugly and it's bad. I think we got that part down. But it doesn't have to stay as bad. And a woman who might feel alone and without options, she is not without options. Maybe they're not magic options that are going to fix it overnight, but there's options, and there's people that want to help. So that's the message that we all have to get across, and if you know somebody, they need to know this. Okay, once again, no snapshots, right? Frequency, duration, intensity, all these behaviors. Frequency, duration, intensity. Social animals, we're all putting out signals. Hopefully someone's paying attention to those signals, etc. These events happen in people's lives. You either yourself or someone no doubt. One or more, maybe all of these. And people get through them, usually, and they go on. Sometimes they don't get over it. If a person is when we said people don't just snap, if a person's in a crisis state, and they've gotten to a point where they can no longer function the way before, and I'll define that in a second, but their options start to change, and their tolerances change. Everything's changed. Everything's different. So a little thing can be the triggering event. Doesn't mean they snapped. It means something was the straw that broke the camel's back, or the spark that lit the fuse, or whatever. The fuse was already there, something lit it. This is how it usually plays out. There's one case in Kentucky a couple years ago I used to show a video on, but I stopped because it's just too awful. But 19-year-old worker in a factory got told in the span of 3 days. At one point, he didn't have his safety glasses on, so someone said, hey, make sure you put your safety glasses on. And a day or two later, he was on his cell phone when he shouldn't have been, and a supervisor or somebody said, hey, you can't talk on your cell phone right here, right now. No written up, none of that. The next day, he brought a gun to the factory, and he killed 4 coworkers, not even the people that yelled at him. And so people see that, and they go, wow, he killed them because they told him to put his safety glasses on. No, That's not why. Might have been his ultimate triggering event. That's some of these things can do, and that's how we see it play out, whether it's the restraining order or whatever the heck it is. There's a triggering event sometimes. And okay, here we go. So the bottom line, and back to the friction. The whole idea is no one person is going to fix this. So all of us working together, trying to recognize issues before they become bad, right? Trying to help each other out. If someone's sad, maybe talking to them or listening to them, whatever. That's the idea. Do it early before it gets bad. Because once it gets bad and a person gets to this crisis state, it's sometimes too late. Okay? And now I'll define a crisis state for you. It's a very personal thing and it's a very subjective thing. And what looks like a crisis state to you might not to me. And so the main thing we have to keep in mind is it is very subjective. Okay? And I'll give you a quick personal example, not because I like to bear my personal shame publicly, but because it's probably something you can relate to, and it might help this stick a little better. So I said your plates were full, right? I said it at the beginning. We use that metaphor all the time. We say, my plate's full, plate's full. So let's use that for our visual right now, okay? Our plates. On our plate is our life. It's our email and our job and our car and our kid. Everything in our life is on our plate, and our job is to keep moving down the line. Maybe it's the buffet line of life, okay? Keep moving down the line with our plate. Keep it balanced. Keep everything on it. That's what we do. So I'm going along, and a couple years ago here, and stuff on my plate, coming off my plate, just moving along nicely, and my father dies, right? And it hits my plate, and it's way bigger than my plate, and there is no way I'm holding that plate, and I drop it. And hell, I'm not moving anymore either. And